This is a heartbreaking story of a man who lost six figures from buying the wrong business. Hi, I'm Jared Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast, and today our guest is Cody, who started out young in the aviation world and worked his way up to becoming the captain, 737 captain for a major airline. And after a 4-year stretch doing humanitarian work in East Africa with his wife and 4 kids, Cody then transitioned into leading several entrepreneurial pursuits and now works full-time as a stock and real estate investor. Now, I just want to say a massive hats off to Cody, who came on the podcast and was very vulnerable and very brave in sharing his experience buying a dud business. And it is my massive mission to help people to not have to go through an experience like this, where Cody went all in on an e-commerce business and it did not pan out very well at all. And that's due to obviously not knowing what to look for when buying a business, not knowing how to spot possible risks, or not even knowing, these things even exist, these types of risks, which is what I share in this podcast episode. Firstly, Cody obviously shares his approach to buying his first online business, why he decided to go into the e-commerce space. Then we talk about what he did during his due diligence, what some of the things that he may have missed out on looking at and doing and being diligent in when doing his due diligence. And then he sort of shares, what he learnt through the process. And we sort of unpack the process of him buying this site and, how it came out not being a good investment. We also talk about, why he would never go all in again, and what he would do differently. And then I share, how people could allocate their capital and what I suggest they do when allocating the capital when buying their first business. Then I go on and share my advice on what people should be looking at and should be doing during their due diligence when buying not just their first business, but buying any business and especially doing due diligence on an e-commerce business. I share some of the things that you should be looking at during single source dependency, looking at Google Ads, looking at expenses, looking at costs for products, looking at the hats you need to wear as an entrepreneur for an e-commerce business. And there's so much in this podcast episode around how to not buy an e-commerce business and what you could do differently. And I think that anybody that is looking to buy a business needs to hear this episode. It is incredibly valuable. It is at the expense of Cody. And I just want to say again, thank you, Cody, for being so vulnerable and open and brave enough to share your story. Now, before we dive into this episode, this is more relevant than ever. Make sure you go away and get my due diligence framework that I use and a lot of other people have used to buy businesses. We've made millions of dollars and saved millions of dollars through using this framework. It's what I use and my clients use. So make sure you go away and get this. That can take the guesswork out of buying a business and can prevent a lot of what has happened in Cody's story have happened to you when you're buying your first online business. So make sure you get that. Go to buyingonlinebusinesses.com/free resources to get that. And they've got some other cool things on that page you can get there too. Let's dive in. Do you want to build or grow your content website? Niche website builders have helped hundreds of people to take their content websites from a few $100s per month to over tens of thousands of dollars per month with crafted content creation, buying age domains, and link building strategies. These strategies have helped people increase their traffic, authority, monthly earnings, and their website valuation too. Head to nichewebsite.builders/BOB/ to get 10% off any link building or 10% more from their content creation services. That's nichewebsite.builders/Bob/. I'll put a link in the description too. Cody, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here.
So you reached out to me and it was an interesting thing that you mentioned. I thought, let's just have a quick chat. Might not even be quick, but let's just have a chat and see where this goes in terms of how we can highlight some of the things that you may have learned through your experience buying your site, because it didn't turn out, it wasn't the ideal story that I usually publish about in a podcast with one of my clients that's gone away and bought a business and they've done all this sort of cool stuff. This is the other side of it. Let's open this up for discussion. First and foremost, why did you want to buy an online business?
Yeah, so I was looking kind of from an investment standpoint, and I wanted a ready-made business that was available and had been built up. And I've run businesses before, but more brick and mortar and service type businesses. And so this is my first foray into an online business. But I wanted something that I could run from anywhere in the world. And so that got me into looking at e-commerce and trying to find just the right fit that I thought would be something I can manage, and that has some good cash flow and things like that. So I wanted to buy something that was established and set up already, that had the systems in
Mm.
place that I could just take over and kind of manage and enjoy the cash flow from it as an investment.
Cool, cool. And so why e-commerce? What made you choose e-commerce, I guess?
Yeah, it just seemed like some other investment type podcasts and other things. Had mentioned some of the that there's more and more brokers out there that will help you to find these ready-made businesses that you know act as an investment vehicle. And so that intrigued me, because I certainly didn't want to get back into a business that was physically tied to a geographical location. And so e-commerce just really appealed to me because of that.
Okay, cool. And so there's a few different types of online business models that I like to explain and teach. So you have, content sites, then you've got e-commerce, and then you got SaaS and membership sites. They're the three main ones that I like to explain and teach. What made you choose e-commerce over, say, these other types of business models?
Yeah, I looked at all the different types, or looked at several listings for different ones. And to be honest, just the e-commerce just made the most sense to me. Just having a physical product that you sell online and ship to a customer, just seemed pretty straightforward to me. And I'm not much on the, I'm not a content creator, things like that. But dealing with physical products and inventory and things like that, made sense to me. And so I felt like that would be something in my wheelhouse that I can manage and make work.
Cool. All right. And have you ever been a part of a e-commerce business before? Like, have you ever known somebody that's run one, or have you ever helped somebody that's run one before, or run one yourself?
No, yeah, really didn't have any experience at all. And didn't know anybody directly that had done anything like that. I'd seen the power of just digital marketing through a service business that I once ran back in Texas. And saw just Google AdWords and people doing the online searches, for a service or a product, and just how, if you're if you're hitting the right keywords in the right market, that works out well. So I did have that experience. I'd run I had other people run it for me, SEO campaigns and things like that. So I did have some experience in that, just on digitally advertising something online and seeing the customers come in.
Cool. And so, where did you go with the process? Like, how did you go about trying to find an e-commerce business for sale? And then tell us, yeah, then we'll dive into due diligence, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I started looking at different offerings, through I looked through a couple, three different brokers online that had listings for businesses for sale. And so I was just looking for something that kind of piqued my interest. I didn't want to get into something that I had no interest in. And so I found something just in the outdoors type segment, and kind of appealed to me. And um, and and I did some research, due diligence, on NDAs for looking at several different things. And just certain issues that came up, and so I passed on several that I looked into on a deeper level. But then this one came up that it was something. It's like, okay, well, I've got a little bit of experience, with that product, and seems like it's a burgeoning market, and then just doing the research, seeing that customers were searching this product out. And so it looked like, good timing for, what it was, and, where the market's going for that. And the site had just enough age to it to, seem like it was credible, and the numbers look good, on everything that they're reporting sales wise, and growth of sales, and all those things. So I kept going forward to it with it, and eventually, made a full price offer, and became owner of it. So.
Cool. Okay. Good work on finding one. And now tell us about well, I guess we should sort of explain a little bit about the business and where it's currently at now, and then we'll come back to your due diligence process and maybe what you've learned through this process. Because already, I mean, having a fair bit of experience and talking with people that first come to this space of wanting to make an income online, and sort of replace their income, or have a different lifestyle where they can travel and stuff like that. There's a few things and directions that I believe that people should take that can set themselves up for success that may not have been taken into account when you first started researching this. But there's going to be a fair bit more that I feel will be good to understand after we explain where the business is at currently, and also what happened and what you learned through due diligence. So tell us a little bit more about like where the business is at, where it was when you purchased it, or perceived where it was when you purchased it, and its performance levels now.
Yeah. So, when I'm going through the verification process and seeing sales come in through the Shopify numbers, and so it was easily, verifiable to see, hey, here's these the numbers, the sales, and just their history over the last 18 months to 2 years, and the numbers were really good. I mean, gross sales were coming in at 70, 80,000, pretty consistently on a monthly basis, and these outdoor items are high ticket items, so the what you kept out of that was definitely small on the percentage wise, but still definitely profitable on what was being reportedly spent on ad spend with Google and Microsoft.
So is this a drop shipping product?
Yeah, it's a drop shipping type model for for the products being sold,
Okay.
and and so the numbers that started out strong, for the seller, had built this site up, and then I was in the process of flipping it, selling it, here probably 18 months after he had started it. And so all the numbers look good, and he had orders coming in on a very consistent basis, and everything looked good. And then so I had a process where I could take a look, at the numbers and verify those sales are coming in, and then after that process, then closed on the sale, and I got some a couple months of support from the seller, and but then immediately just started seeing the sales drop almost immediately. And then as I started looking into it further, I could see that a lot of the sales that were coming in, the traffic source would be listed as unknown or something else like that. So it's a little bit harder to track, to say, okay, well, these higher conversion sales that were coming in, where exactly did those come from? And to this day, it's still a mystery. This is 6 months later that, after I bought this store, and, and I look back on past data, from the previous owner, and it's hard to tell, where was that traffic coming from, at least the traffic that was converting at a high rate, because with a high ticket item, these things definitely don't convert at a high percentage, which is fine, because the average order value is high, but I've just seen that steadily decline, since I've had the business, and so hindsight.
So when you say, sorry, go on and mention your hindsight. I'm curious to see what your hindsight was.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
hindsight, I wish I'd dug deeper into, okay, exactly, where are the conversions coming from, especially the ones that show a higher conversion rate, where are those coming from? And because it was all right there, I just failed in my part as a buyer to do the due diligence that I should have, to see exactly where these sales are coming from. I just saw verifiable gross income, and and the numbers that were coming from, without knowing exactly where are these sales coming from.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing. It's like when you go to buy a site or a business, and you don't know to look for that. You just don't know,
Yeah.
right? It's not like it's your fault as well. It's just that you didn't know, and that was a circumstance. So yeah, I mean, obviously there can be some responsibility taken there, and you know educating yourself on knowing what to find out and all that sort of stuff. Did you do the due diligence just yourself on the site,
Yes.
or did you have anybody help you or look at
I did
it or?
have an SEO specialist person that I'd used for my service business several years back take a look just at Google Analytics and things like that,
Mm,
and then
mm,
also just do some research on market and keywords and for that particular type of product, and
yeah,
so they went in and went through some things and said, no, that it looks really good, his for his return on ad spend for Google Shopping and Microsoft Shopping ads, looks good, for the sales that are coming into the site. That return on ad spend looked good, and it was high, but it was converting it enough, for these high ticket items to make the numbers work, at least on a spreadsheet, on the net income.
yeah. So it's good. I think having somebody look at the site is a great way to go. Having an SEO look at it is good. For why I see it being an e-commerce business, certainly having somebody be in e-commerce or have bought an e-commerce business, or has some understanding of e-commerce in terms of, it's good that they know some SEO principles and they can see the ROI on the ads and stuff like that, which is really good. But maybe some more specialized eyes would have been uh, good to have, looking at the listing at least. So yeah, some of the things, I guess I'll just point out some of the things that can happen when we, just as a learning experience for everybody listening, is that when we're buying an e-commerce business, and I see this so often, especially on some marketplaces that are open marketplaces where people can list their own business for sale, not go through a broker. That the numbers can be made look really really good, and sometimes they may have sold a lot of products, but the returns may be very very high, and people may not see that when they're doing their financial due diligence. Also, the what you said, the unknown purchasers, who does that come from and why? In my due diligence framework, I have a very specific question that I like the buyers of businesses to do to ask the seller during the due diligence personally over a call is, do they make any money outside of the business, from their own personal relationships, their own personal network. Do they make any sales or income revenue from traffic and means outside of the business other than online? And that's a really, I think, a very very fair and important question to ask, because sometimes we have these people that might sell a business in a particular niche and they have a big network, or they have a career, or a previous career behind it, and they just want to sell it, and they don't disclose that they had a lot of sales and traffic come offline. Well, they look like they're online sales, but they get directly referred to the site and make sales that way. So that's something that I think we should be very conscious of as well. There's a lot of things through the due diligence that we really need to check. Like I said, the return rates. Also, with drop shipping businesses, when things are returned, who handles those returns? In terms of who wears the cost. Is it the person who has sold the goods, as in the business owner, or is it that if the product has a manufacturer's default, will the manufacturer who's shipping those products out be liable and then change the product and ship a new product out? I know when I've had a drop shipping business before, the one that I purchased, is I had ensured that the manufacturer would reimburse or refund or exchange products if there was a manufacturer's defect. And that's something important to check when we're doing due diligence
Yeah.
as well. Are there any other things that you think that may have been helpful to understand now that you've been through the process of doing due diligence on your own? Any other insights that you have as well
Yeah, I
that
know,
you may have been able to pick up
definitely
on?
looking back, because it's a Shopify store, so I can go in and, I mean, I can't imagine there's a way to fudge those numbers. And so it looked, those numbers were high, and looked good, looked like a good
Mm.
value on, for the price he was asking. But then, but one thing, looking back, his cost of doing business, I'm just relying on a Excel spreadsheet that he provided. Well, where do those numbers come from? And so I never thought to ask for bank statements or more, verifiable accounting
Yeah.
type issues that could say, okay, well, yeah, he's bringing in this much, but how much is he really keeping? Because I was just kind of going off of a spreadsheet that the seller provided. There's a lot of room for error or just misrepresentation, things like that. That I look at now and say
Yeah, there is.
what really was the true story, behind this thing, when I'm buying it. And so, yeah, I think, even getting an accountant or attorney involved, because I mean, this is a significant purchase for me, and
Yes. Six
yeah,
figures.
and I kind of looked at it more as an investor rather than a business owner. I think is my issue, because the number, the return on investment, looked appealing, and I'm going off of, he's advertising. He worked on it about 15 hours a week. And I thought, okay, well, if I factor that in and it's bringing in this net income a month, then that seems like a really good deal, and on the
Mm.
advertised numbers, it was. But yeah, but was I really getting what I was, paying for? And not doing my homework to verify those things, and then too, just
Yeah, the hard thing is with the costs. If you don't know much about an e-commerce business, how do you know what legitimate costs and what things should cost, or what some of those costs should actually be that they have? For an e-commerce business, you should be looking at things like proof that the advertising is, where the advertising, how much they're spending on the advertising, looking at their Google ad campaigns. So going into Google ads and looking at their campaigns. One of the things that may have had some misreporting is through only looking at their sales through Google Analytics, because that can sometimes not be set up accurately. I prefer to get viewers access of the Google Ads account or the Facebook Ads account or whatever it is. Myself, spending a lot of money on paid marketing myself, if I'm looking at an e-commerce business using paid ads, I think verifying the ads and having a look at the ads, seeing which ones are the performing ads is really, really important. Also, what I like to say to people that's buying their first online business, if they're buying an e-commerce business, is that if the business is heavily reliant on ads, and you're buying it as a business owner, never being in e-commerce before and never having run paid ads or having the experience or the skills to run those paid ads, to maintain those paid ads and or exceed the results of those paid ads, then there's a risk there. Or maybe not having somebody in your corner that you can pay as a consultant to run those ads and get the same results, if not better, then that's a risk of buying that possible business as well. If you're just an investor and you don't have the skills yourself. So there's one risk there that I like to highlight. A lot of my clients that send me due diligence for e-commerce businesses, the first question I ask is, have you ever run an e-commerce business? And have you ever run digital marketing on this platform? And have you got results? And if so, what were those results? And that usually is enough to deter people from buying an e-commerce business if they don't have the experience and they don't know the expected results that they may get without the experience of running those ads. So I think that's something to consider as well. There's so many variables, and as we unfold this, these layers, there's a lot to an e-commerce business, and a lot can go wrong through due diligence. It's hard. It's really hard to know what to check, right? Like,
yeah.
did me talking about Google Analytics reporting versus looking into the Google Ads account? Did you know that could be a thing? Sometimes people don't, right?
Yeah, and no, like, so of course, once I get into it, then I realize how little I know, and or what to look for. And so, and looking back, I really have to consider, it's like, why did I buy this? And I felt like it was a
Mm,
product I was familiar enough with and could get behind and get excited about. But at the end of the day, then I figure out, well, I bought this because it looked like easy cash flow, and not because I'm necessarily passionate about e-commerce. And so I kind of
Mm.
shot myself in the foot right even before I started, because you know I bought a bit of a dud, or definitely a dud. But then, now that I'm in the middle of it, it's hard to get passionate about something that's losing, and then also that's, that I figured out now very quickly is, not my, passion for work. I'm definitely cut out for different types of investing and business type models, but probably e-commerce and drop shipping is not it for me. And two, just in looking at those numbers, I'm seeing all the positives to the drop shipping model, and really didn't consider well enough, okay, but what are the downsides of that drop shipping? And things like, lack of control over inventory, and lack of control over sometimes quality issues. And then you mentioned the
Yeah.
return processes, and all the things that go into that. And so yeah, and then then so I inherit, all these issues. And then so I inherit, a bunch of angry customers, because some things have been left by the wayside in that transition period.
Yeah.
And and just thrown headlong into that, with a business that starts losing sales right off the bat.
Yeah, it's not fun running an e-commerce business that you bought and it just being a rude awakening around. Oh, sometimes your product is going to take a little bit longer, or it takes a little bit longer, and then it arrives and it's damaged, and the customer is already unhappy because it's taken longer than expected. And just the customer, this is the biggest reason I sold my last e-commerce business, is because I just didn't want to deal with that anymore. Especially, like you said, with the manufacturer having the control over when things will be sent out, how they would be sent, with with insurance, with not insurance, if it's going to be damaged, how long it would take. They obviously want to go the cheapest route, uh, and that can hurt your brand, and it can hurt your business, right? It's going to make them more profit, but it's going to be at an expense to you. Another thing to consider when we're buying an e-commerce business is two things: single source dependency on supplier. So if you buy a drop shipping business and there's only one manufacturer for all the products, and they go out of business, or they decide to stop discontinuing your main product, then there's the risk that, well, you can't sell your bestseller, and your revenue is going to be decreased significantly. Another single source dependency is if you have just running Google ads, and your Google ads are very profitable, and they have been for 2 years. And you can see that when you looked at the Google Ads account, when you're doing your due diligence, the single source dependency on just Google Ads is a risk, because what happens if Google changes their algorithm and your best performing ads don't work as well, or provide the same returns that they were? Which is why I think understanding digital marketing and paid marketing in that channel is important, but also having some diversification with some other ad spend in, say, remarketing through Facebook and maybe Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever the product is, best suited for whichever platform that may lend to that niche in that product. So there's that single source dependency is a scary one. Did you know what single source dependency was before I guess maybe even mention it in this discussion?
No, it seemed like, the site was doing so well off of primarily Google's, a little bit off of Microsoft Bing as well. But seeing, of course, he advertised that as a source. Oh, well, you can go through, there's marketing to be done for social media channels and whatnot. And then two, you don't know what you don't know. But, it seemed like, because I'm looking, he's got good customer reviews all over the site. And I just didn't know enough to know that, oh, well, you can go find those reviews to put up there that aren't necessarily from his actual customers. And
Yeah.
not verifying some of those things, because, and then also even asking, what's your returning customer rate and things like that, which are so key to
Yeah.
profitability. And just things that once I got into it and started researching it, then I figured out, okay, well, this is what it takes to have a, successful brand. And two, I think that's one thing I really failed at, is that idea of branding. And that's a little hard with the drop shipping business, but but still, at the end of the
Yes, it
day, you
is.
still got to have some type of branding, to make it a successful site, or a store that people are going to refer their friends and family members to come back to. And just seeing that those aspects weren't there when I bought it. And so, just realizing you kind of bought a
Yeah,
house of
yeah.
cards that could fall down at any moment.
There are a lot of those things with drop shipping and running an e-commerce business that we may not with every business we may not expect when we buy the business, which is important to understand. And this is why I think doing due diligence on a lot of businesses really helps us to understand what is involved in the businesses we end up purchasing. So I guess I want to ask you, Cody, like how many businesses did you go through a full thorough due diligence? And what I mean by a thorough due diligence is analyzing everything. How many of those business, like how many times did you do that?
Yeah, I probably only looked at probably three businesses, including the one I bought, with, diving into the numbers and sales and sources and things like that. And then this one popped up kind of at the right price range and the right, income levels. And so, and it was fairly newer listing. So it seemed like it was a good deal and I wanted to jump on it. So I probably rushed myself in the process to get an offer in and snatch this one up because it was the bright shiny one in my eyes that oh well this is I think there's a good market for this and I could get behind this. And so I just went down that path of thinking, oh well, it's an established business, it's got verifiable gross income, and so I just went for it. And but so that's kind of how I ended up here.
I'm really sorry. I wish I like wish I had a been able to help in this situation. It's my mission and my goal to help people, and it really hurts to see that this has happened to good people like you, and it can just happen through just not knowing, and sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and now you're discovering the being the owner of this business. You're like, wow, okay, there was a lot that you didn't know, right? And I just want to say thank you for being open and vulnerable and brave enough to share this with us, because there's so much in the learning curve that you by you sharing this is going to help so many other people, and hopefully help you if you want to go again and buy business, if you have the strength to muster that after this, and or the strength to sort of maybe change some of the things in the business that you have bought that can make it more profitable as well. What would you say to anybody that is a first time buyer when they're looking at purchasing their first
Yeah,
business?
yeah. My counsel would be to seek out all the advice and education that you can get. Because the resources are out there, definitely. Because this there's more and more business, more of a marketplace for the buying and selling of these type of businesses, which is a good thing. I think that just provides competition and more transparency. But at the same time, it's like any other investment. You've got to do your due diligence and really take a good hard look and not be in a hurry, because you can get yourself in trouble, which is what I did. I've just seen the value of even if it's hiring outside experts, or but people that really know what they're looking for and looking at, and paying for that service, a pre-buy inspection. I'm not sure what you would call it in this world, but I know that looking back, I wish that I'd really dove in and found people that have been down this road before, that know what to look for, what's the right questions to ask, and all those things that could have saved me a lot of heartache and pain. And but the good news is, I mean, because I've considered that, it's like where do I go from here? And but if I had to do it over, I think I'd definitely start on a smaller scale and just to test it out, because this I went all in right off the bat with a first time experience in this type of business, and that was the wrong thing to do. I think there's something to be had for testing the waters, finding a smaller investment and see how that works out, and then grow it or scale it into something
Yeah,
else. later down the road.
Yeah, spot on. I think all in, I don't think, what I like to tell people is that if you have, say, $100,000 of capital, and that's 100% of the capital that you have. I don't think it's worth spending the $100,000. I think it's worth spending anywhere up to the $80,000, and I say up to the $80,000, 80% range, for having some contingency money. And then maybe if you do have, you can spend up to the 80,000, and you might buy one for 40,000, say a content site, smaller site, and then work out if it's, a decent one that you may like. And then if it is, then you can buy another one. And then you've got that risk diversification. The other thing that does make it hard about this is that buying a $40,000 business versus an $80,000 business, this is a very general statement, so take it lightly, but more often than not, that $80,000 business will be twice as established, twice as easy to run, twice as profitable than the $40,000 business. And you may have less time that you need to spend on the income that you are actually making. So what you've done, Cody, is going all in. It's made you have less work and the possibility to earn more income, but the risk diversification wasn't there. And, it doesn't matter whether you had a hard investment that didn't go so well. I've been there. And also you've had good ones that have done well. I've been there a lot. And, it doesn't matter whether it goes good or bad, you're still going to do things differently, and you're still going to learn to evolve. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming on. And depending on what you want to do, whether, there's something I can do to help you with this business, grow it, or help you buy one in the future. If it's a possibility, maybe we'll tune in and record something in the future if that evolves, and I'll keep everybody posted if that does evolve. And yeah, I want to say thank you again, Cody, for coming on and sharing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time to just listen, and it just helps kind of share the story. And like I said, I hope it can help somebody else out, to maybe prevent some of the mistakes I made, and prevent some pain out there. And but we live and grow through these experiences, and it is what it is. But I think that just education and podcasting channels like yours is extremely helpful, for guys out there like me that wanting to get into this. But yeah, you got to be careful, just like anything else.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate you saying that there's lots of resources out there. And look, as raw as it may be, I know this has been the case in my life, where I've had some real trouble in my business and businesses that have been struggling. As hard as that time was, in hindsight, I look back at it and go, wow, that really helped me a lot in everything else that I have looking forwards. It really helped me grow as a business owner and as a person. So as raw as this may be for you right now, Cody, which I have no doubt it is, maybe in 5-10 years time, we're looking back and we're like, well, it happened for a reason, and that reason is where you're at in that future version of yourself. So thanks again, Cody, and we hopefully can see you in the future doing some bigger and brighter things.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, hope so.
Hey YouTube watcher, if you thought that video was good, you should check out this video here on the 2 best types of websites beginners should buy. Or check out my playlist on how I made my first 100K from buying websites and how to do due diligence. Check it out. It's an awesome playlist. You'll enjoy it.